At the edge of Egypt's western desert near Siwa Oasis, an old legend survived for generations. Bedouin tribes spoke of a mysterious place known as the Cave of Shadows. According to the stories, anyone who entered the cave never returned the same person. 5 friends were traveling across Egypt during their vacation. They spent their days exploring ancient ruins, forgotten temples, and remote desert locations far from civilization. One evening, while sitting around a campfire beneath a sky filled with countless stars, one of them discovered an old photograph. The image showed a group of explorers standing in front of a strange cave entrance deep within the desert. The photograph came from 1936. Every explorer in the picture disappeared shortly after entering the cave. No bodies were found. No equipment was recovered. No evidence remained. Only the photograph survived. As the fire crackled in the darkness, the group realized they were only a few hours away from the location shown in the image. That was the moment everything changed. The following morning, the 5 friends began their journey toward the location marked in the old photograph. They packed water, flashlights, ropes, and enough supplies for a single day. At first, the drive felt normal. Endless sand dunes stretched in every direction, and the sun burned high above the desert. As the hours passed, something changed. Phone signals disappeared. The GPS stopped working. Even the compass needle began moving strangely. By late afternoon, they spotted a massive rock formation rising from the sea of sand. Ancient symbols covered its surface in large circular patterns. The symbols looked worn by time, yet somehow appeared untouched. At the center of the formation was a dark opening. The cave. A cold wind flowed from inside, despite the intense desert heat outside. For a moment, nobody moved. An uneasy feeling settled over the group. The entrance looked less like a cave and more like a doorway, leading somewhere it should not. Then they noticed something strange. The sand around the entrance was completely smooth. There were no animal tracks. No footprints. Nothing. As if nothing had approached the cave for years. Slowly, they stepped closer. And as they reached the entrance, they realized the darkness inside was far deeper than it should have been, almost as if the cave was hiding something that did not want to be found. The moment they entered the cave, the temperature dropped dramatically. The hot desert air vanished behind them and was replaced by a cold silence that felt unnatural. Their flashlight beams revealed narrow tunnels stretching deep into the darkness. At first, everything seemed normal. Then they heard it. A faint ticking sound, slow, rhythmic, like an old clock hidden somewhere beyond the walls. The deeper they walked, the louder it became. One of them checked his watch and noticed something strange. The seconds no longer moved at a steady pace. Sometimes they jumped forward. Sometimes they froze completely. Nobody could explain it. Then the ticking suddenly stopped. The silence that followed felt even worse, and somewhere ahead in the darkness, a shadow moved across the tunnel wall. The problem was that nobody had moved. The group froze. Every flashlight turned toward the wall. Nothing was there. The shadow had vanished. Trying to stay calm, they continued deeper into the cave. Strange symbols began appearing on the walls. Some looked ancient, others looked impossible, as if they belonged to a language no human had ever written. Then another strange thing happened. Voices. At first, they sounded distant, almost impossible to hear, but slowly they became clearer. The voices sounded familiar, terrifyingly familiar. Each person could hear their own voice echoing somewhere ahead. The voices were speaking words they had never said, warning them to leave, begging them to turn back. Yet every tunnel they followed only pulled them farther inside. Then they reached a massive underground chamber, and in the center stood a giant stone circle covered with glowing symbols. The symbols pulsed with a faint blue light. The same ticking sound returned, only now it came from every direction at once. The group carefully approached the stone circle. As they did, they noticed dozens of carvings covering the walls around them. Most had been damaged by time. But one sentence remained perfectly clear. Those who enter are not lost in the world. They are lost in time. A cold feeling spread through the chamber. Nobody spoke. Then one flashlight suddenly went out. A second later, another died. And another. Within seconds, the entire room was swallowed by darkness. The ticking became louder, faster, closer. Then, a voice emerged from somewhere in the blackness. It sounded human, but something about it felt wrong. The voice spoke only 4 words. "You should not be here." Then the chamber shook violently. Dust fell from the ceiling. Cracks spread across the stone floor. The group ran toward the nearest tunnel as the shaking grew stronger. When it finally stopped, everything was silent again. Too silent. They turned around to check on each other and immediately realized something was wrong. One of them was missing. There had been 5 people when they entered the chamber. Now there were only 4. Panic spread instantly. They called his name again and again. No answer came back, only their own echoes. Then, one of them noticed something carved into the wall nearby. The message had not been there before. The stone looked freshly marked, as if someone had written it only moments ago. The message contained a single sentence. One has already become part of the cave, and beneath the words was a handprint that belonged to their missing friend. Fear completely took over. The remaining 4 friends began searching every tunnel they could find. Hours seemed to pass, or perhaps only minutes. Inside the cave, time no longer felt real. Their watches all displayed different hours. Some showed morning, others showed midnight. Nothing made sense anymore. Then they found another chamber. This one contained hundreds of stone pillars, and on every pillar was a face. Some faces looked ancient, some looked modern, but all of them shared the same expression: terror. As their flashlight beams moved across the room, one of the faces suddenly blinked. Then another, and another. The stone faces were alive. Slowly, every head turned toward them. At the same moment, footsteps echoed from the darkness behind them. Heavy footsteps, coming closer. Whatever was making them was not trying to hide anymore. The footsteps stopped. The cave became silent once more. No one dared to turn around. Every instinct told them something was standing in the darkness watching them. Then one of the flashlights revealed a figure at the far end of the chamber. A human silhouette, motionless, waiting. As they moved closer, the truth became clear. The figure was their missing friend, or at least it looked like him. His face was pale, his eyes were completely black, and he stood perfectly still without blinking. Then he smiled. A slow, unnatural smile. The same ticking sound returned, louder than ever before, and the figure took a single step forward. At that moment, they finally understood the terrible secret of the Cave of Shadows. Nobody truly disappeared inside it. The cave kept them forever, to be continued.